Honors the mass communication program. It has produced hundreds of journalism and communication graduates over the years, making it the most influential journalism training program in Uganda. Now, to discuss this landmark, we have the head of Department of the Journalism and Communication at Makerere University, Dr. William Taiwo, and he joins us right now in studio. Good morning and many thanks for joining us.
Maria, thank you very much.
Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Mala.
Mala. Thank you.
Well, Doctor, talk to us about this landmark. 30 years after this program started, how many people have graduated from this program?
On average, in the initial years, we were graduating very small classes. But as you know, in the recent few years, we graduate on average 80 students per year. In the last 10, 20 years. That puts our graduates to, 1,200, 1,500. That's quite a big number. And they're out there in all sectors doing amazing stuff,
right,
including here at NTV.
Okay, so they always have this conversation, and in the workspace we're just having a conversation with Romeo about AI and how it's going to disrupt different careers and the workspace, so to speak. Now, we've always been having that conversation. How prepared are the graduates as they come to this dynamic work sector in the media space? Is the course evolving with the changing times? Because now we know that the media space is really tough. Even the regulation with regards to the same is becoming tougher. So how has the course evolved over time from the 1988-89 kind of beginning period?
I followed your conversation actually with interest, and I liked what you said. The fact that yes, artificial intelligence has come, it's already with us, but it's not going to take away the skill set that comes with a human being, the emotions that come in us as journalists telling the story, connecting with the human being. But to answer your question, yes, we are being retooling. There is no doubt about it. And for academic institutions, that means reviewing curricula. As we speak, we have reviewed our curriculum from one program which was Bachelor of Journalism and Communication and a Master of Journalism a Master of Arts in Journalism and Communication to two different programs. And one of the key considerations, especially for the bachelor's, but also the master's program, has been to take care of those disruptions that you are talking about. Disruptions by technology, disruptions by globalization processes, changes in the market, shrinking of the newspaper industry, the fact that people now are reading you and watching this program on their cell phones.
Correct.
Not on probably on the traditional television screen. So yes, we are retooling our journalists, our graduates, to catch up with what is happening in the industry, and we depend a lot also on practitioners like you to tell us what's happening, and you give us feedback. When you give us feedback, we inbuilt that into our curriculum, and that's what we are doing right now.
Well, what are some of the developments, major developments over the years that you can recall offhand?
Well, some of within the department or the sector, the entire sector.
Yes.
I think the entire sector we've seen, first of all, the growth of the journalism sector from a time when it was only one television station and one radio station. When I was UTV. When I was a student at Makerere University, it was only one radio station, one television station. To now, more than 200 radio stations,
more than
dozens
TV stations.
Yes, absolutely. Networks like yours owning several. What has not changed is, of course, the print. Readership has gone up, there is no doubt about it. The fact that one newspaper is read by several people, and also people who read online, but that sector has not grown. So yes, the sector has grown, but earlier on you talked about the laws as well. You know, that has caught up with us as well. When the sector grows, you know, the state also comes in with new regulations.
Right.
You are talking about the Computer Misuse Act 2011.
True that.
Where my colleague Dr. Stella Nyanzi
and Kabuleta.
And Kabuleta too, Kabuleta too has been caught up in that one as well. And of course, I mean, the professionalization, and that's where our department came in,
right,
to professionalize the sector.
Right.
In 1987, at a press conference at State House, President Yoweri Museveni called journalists fishmongers. You know, for someone from Western Uganda to call you a fishmonger actually is an insult, I must say. And that actually led to the establishment of our department in 1988-89, because it is thought, the president said, we need to train journalists.
And you know, coming in that particular point, the president referring to journalists as that, and how the journalism sector is now, maybe it's just now that it's, you know, gaining its glory back again. Initially, even you tell your parent that, hey mama, I want to go study journalism in university, and they'll be like, be serious with your life, you won't get a job, or
you'll get picked up by police.
Or there's that as well, the risks, but also you will not make a life for yourself because of the peanuts that are being paid in the scene and in this particular sector. So, and I'm saying peanuts in quotes very carefully, because you know this, where we started is not where we are at now. So as a university, what contribution have you made to make sure that even journalism, you know, the practice is given the much respect it deserves in terms of, you know, compensating the journalists well enough?
I wish we would have done more. I wish, especially engagement with the owners, the media owners, and I think that's where our shortcoming has been. The fact that we've produced very brilliant journalists, that one, there is no doubt about it. But you are absolutely right that most of our products end up in journalism. They practice for a few years and then end up in civil society groups, NGOs, and other sectors because of the poor pay. I think we as a department should have engaged more and very proactively with media owners. So the political economy of the media has been so complex that you have trained journalists whom you know ought to be paid very well, but the media owner tells you, I don't make enough money, okay, to be able to pay these trained journalists the amount that you know, they deserve. At the end of the day, they end up getting you know, picking diploma holders or even certificate holders, train them on the job, and they know they will be able maybe to pay them less. That's especially in radio.
Right.
In television, I think you know, you guys, you are okay. I see you look really good. So and print too. Print is okay also, except that it is still also dominated by very many freelance journalists who are still again paid peanuts, and they depend on you know, payment per story.
Does the university have the muscle to come down with the, you know, to meet with the media owners and have this critical and, you know, very touchy conversation? Are you foreseeing that future where you become the mouthpiece of the journalists?
Absolutely. We've been trying to reach out to media owners. We, in the initial years, we had breakfast meetings where we had, you know, but it was usually editors and then our department. But I think that's really something we are putting onto the table, where we, as journalism schools, we are no longer the only one, by the way. Almost every university now in the land has a mass communication program.
Least, yes.
I think we in training institutions ought to engage more with media owners, especially radio. Radio owners, I think that's where most of our products are really, not getting the best.
Okay. Well, speaking of employment, there have been reservations from some employers that the journalism program at Makerere University, not only Makerere University, but most of the universities in Uganda, the curriculum is too theoretical. Instead of being practical. Now, in that they pass out graduates who cannot sustain themselves and ensure that they retain these jobs for a very long time. Because we hire you in January, by May we are releasing you. Why? You're a fresh graduate, you have a degree. What is the problem?
The problem, I think, goes both ways. We, as academic institutions, obviously have to focus on the conceptual, and to be a journalist you have to be very well informed, like the two of you are, on global issues, politics and economics and health issues and so on. So that curriculum provides a host of skill sets, and that's the university has to provide that. Now, of course, we are a professional course, and therefore we have also to provide the practical aspects. And for us to be able to do that is partnerships with media institutions like yours, because we cannot, NTV, I've been seeing you evolve.
True.
New programs coming, new tools coming. We cannot train for NTV effectively year in, year out. The best way is partnership with NTV. You come and tell us, you know what, we are now using this program, we are no longer using this particular program, so we are using this one now in the newsroom, in production and so on. So these are the kind of skills that you should provide. So yes,
is that partnership as robust as it should be? Because I'll tell you, I've gone through journalism school, and beauty is, it was quite practical. We had even a radio station, but getting down to the job market, the systems are totally different. We're using old systems. So how robust is that partnership to ensure that this graduate actually, interfaces with the actual thing that will interface with the job market? How robust is that partnership? It's work in progress.
It really could be better. It really could be better. But we are grateful to institutions such as NTV that continue to take on our products. I've met a couple of them when I was coming in, and they come here and they retool. They retool. We too. I have to retool. When I started journalism practice at the Crusader, we were using PageMaker. And then I leave the Crusader, I joined the New Vision. At that time they were using Quark Express. When I left the New Vision and joined the Monitor, which is part of your network, they were using Adobe InDesign. I'm from the print background. So within such a short time, we are talking 3 years, 3 years, 3 programs, different programs to edit. So, and that happens to you as well. So I think the key is retooling. But as long as that particular individual has the right aptitudes and is able to be trained, I think those are the kind of people we want, and those are the ones that you should be looking at.
Well, Dr. Taiwa, let's stick on the issue of work retention. It's a very great issue of that. Now, have you ever considered the creation of a journalism school independent from Makerere University as a viable solution to this? I'm talking about practicability of the courses. So creation of an independent journalism school, is it a viable solution?
I've seen those journalism schools in other parts of the world, but at Makerere University we've not considered an independent school outside the university. So I think the model you are talking about is having a dedicated school where UCU, Makerere, and everyone else, all the journalists would go to that school, a kind of law development center. So the lawyers, whether you are from UCU or from Makerere University or any other university, you must go to the law development center to be, to come out.
Before you join the job market.
Exactly, before I join the job market. I think it's a very interesting proposition. But that is not limited only Makerere University. I think we, as journalism schools, can be able to have that conversation together with our line ministry. And maybe UCC as well, Uganda Communications Commission.
All right.
Those sectors.
Okay, so Dr. Tayabwa, we're in the digital era,
yes,
and journalism is by the day becoming more and more challenging with regards to, we have fake news and citizen journalism as well, and getting that balance has become a hurdle every single day. The citizens break the news on social media even before the main media houses do.
Before it's verified.
Exactly, and before it's verified. So what are you teaching your students in schools with regards to combating that and still remaining on course and not to be caught up in that competition of who broke the news first, who scooped who? How are we grounding our journalists with that respect, especially now that we know we think it's hot now, but it's going to get hotter. So what are we doing in that regard?
Brilliant question, brilliant question. I think any media institution that gets the temptation to run away from the principles of journalism we'll actually face it very rough, because the public out there will very quickly realize that in that heat of the moment for you to break the story, you actually ended up getting it wrong. So if President Mugabe, reportedly Robert Mugabe, former president of Zimbabwe, is dead, it starts trickling in on Twitter, on all these social media handles. You, as a journalism institution, as a journalist, must not jump onto that and put it out there as if it is actually true before verification. So for us, we insist on those principles of the trade. Verification, truth, and accuracy are key, and make sure that when you break the story, it must be correct. But when you do, inform the public out there, because the audience are very brilliant. Inform them that this story is developing. This is a developing story. We've heard that President Robert Mugabe has died, okay, but we are verifying. Say it on air. And people will know that you are, a conscious journalist who is aware that truth-telling and being accurate is still very cardinal.
Do you think social media is watering down the profession?
I don't think so. I mean, these are tools, Mala. I mean, these tools have always been there. It's us to make sure that we don't jump onto these tools and misuse them. These tools have always been there. When television came onto the scene, it found radio. But radio found newspapers, right? Newspapers found something else. To the days of paintings on walls. That was the media. These are media, these are tools there to facilitate us, to make sure that our audiences get a story wherever they are. And like any other tool, if you misuse it, it's you to blame. It's not the tool to blame. So let's enjoy the tools, let's harness those tools, but let's be mindful of the fact that these are indeed tools, and the responsibility of making sure that we do the right job is us as professionals.
Okay, now back in the day there was great opposition from practicing journalists who felt, well, the curriculum was inadequate. Has the situation changed?
We still have a couple of people opposing.
But they still come anyway.
But that has reduced though. I think the opposition at that time was because, especially in the early 90s, the conversation between the Uganda Journalist Association and NIJU, the National Institute of Journalists of Uganda, which was populated mainly by graduates from our program, and then UJA. At that time, now it's full of graduates as well. At that time, was full of those people you are talking about, and they thought that these trained journalists are coming to take all the jobs. But I think also we came with a condescending attitude that you remember that time it's the best who went to journalism school. We still take the best. So that's where the
friction came from.
The friction came from, but I think it has lessened over the years.
Okay, Doctor, you know, we are counting down to the 2021 general elections, and a majority would argue that the space is already heated. You know, just a few months ago we were running, it was heavy on social media, hashtag journalism is not a crime, thanks to the violations that we saw against journalists. How are we grooming our journalists, and how can the media houses, you know, the media house is not a media house without its journalists.
True.
So how can journalists, both in the practice and them that are in school, just, you know, embrace utmost and the high levels of, you know, of excellence with regards to reporting in political matters, especially in this particular space that we're getting into, 2021 general elections?
I think really the reporting, I don't doubt the reporting in those times. The reporting has been, in my view, you know, quite, especially for print and television. For radio, there is always a challenge because of the kind of, the caliber of reporters out there. We discussed that earlier on. What has been, I think, challenging is the fact that, you know, politics is full of tough questions. Our job is to ask the tough questions.
Right.
And when you ask the tough questions, to hold those people in power to account, or those who want the power to account, they are going to get into self-defense mode. And that's where you see that friction. That's where you see those attacks that you are talking about. But as for the quality of reporting, really, especially for television and print journalists, I think you've been doing a wonderful job of asking the tough questions, of keeping it balanced and fair, of you inviting the various protagonists in the political arena to come and put the agenda out there.
But what should journalists do? What should journalists do if your job is to ask, you know, those tough questions, to make sure that your report is as balanced as possible, and you get to that point where you're at risk of being attacked, so to speak? What should we do at the end of the job? At the end of the day, the job has to be done. We have pledged allegiance to our citizens.
I think those are very brilliant questions. The safety and security of journalists is absolutely key, and I think this has to be by all of us. We are academic institutions ought to come out and speak out more when journalists are attacked, and but also I think the responsibility also is to you, the journalist. You must know that the responsibility of you telling that story is when you are alive. So when you are dead, that story cannot be told. So safety and security, one by us as training institutions, two by the media houses as well, to ensure that they provide the equipment. You know, you need a helmet if you are covering a conflict where, you know, police are running after, you know, civilians and so on. You know, to have the proper gear. That's the employers to provide that. And associations ought to be also very active. I'm glad that Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda has been doing very, you know, active, but UJA as well is coming on board. And we as academic institutions really ought to be training schools, ought to come on board and make sure that, you know, the safety and security of journalists is part of our curriculum, number one, and we try to do that. But number two, that we follow it up with, you know, the employers to make sure that our journalists are protected.
So that's what you do to protect journalists. But then back in the day, let's talk about 2015, during the campaigns. We saw journalists engaging in running battles with the police just for covering those riots. Now, how best can Uganda police and journalists harmonize the atmosphere so that we can coexist? Yes.
The nature of our work, by the way, the police, sometimes I pity them, because in every report, Press Freedom Index report, Human Rights report, the police are number one.
Always.
Always, okay? And it's easy to understand why they are always number one, because the nature of our work puts us in direct confrontation with them. So naturally, we want the story, and they want to protect the scene or crime scene or whatever it is, and that puts us into confrontation. I'm glad that I think there's been more engagement with the police. We have very friendly, people there in the force that I think they are also aware of that, and they are really training their officers to be mindful. If this is a journalist and identifies herself or himself as such, should be treated as with a bit of respect. But I think we also ought to know and not push the boundaries, because if they say this is a crime scene and it is cordoned off,
respect that.
Respect that.
So let's revert back to the program, the training program. How is the training of journalism and public relations practitioners evolving as per now?
Oh, it is evolving because of the tools that you talked about earlier on, the disruptions that we've had, social media. We have to catch up, and we have to keep retooling all the time. And that it's not only for journalists but also for public relations officers as well, to be able to have a Twitter handle, and you're on Facebook active, and you're tweeting, and you are on Instagram and Snapchat and all these other tools.
Okay, Doctor, finally, the 26th and the 27th of this particular month will be two great days for the university as you mark 30 days. 30 years, beg your pardon, in this particular profession, journalism and communication. So what should you be expecting? I want you to speak to the viewers and what they should be expecting on these 2 days.
On the 26th of September, we are going to have a public debate, a symposium at Makerere University. It is most likely going to be in the main hall, so everyone out there is invited to be part of this conversation, to look at all these Hotel Africana, that is the dinner, the celebratory dinner, where again mainly our alumni, but also well-wishers as well, or professionals will be there, so that we can mark the 30 years of journalism and communication training in this wonderful country.
Awesome. Dr. William Taiwo, the head of Department of Journalism and Communication, many thanks for having answered our call to come and demystify some of the rumors surrounding these issues. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, you're still watching Morning at NTV. We will now take a very short break. Or just maybe split on bidday. He's in Nakuru right now. So let's just get acquainted with the latest with regards to traffic. Yes, Mbede, if you can hear us.
Yes, good morning, Romeo. Thank you so much. Eramano, webali nyo okerera ku NTV. This is Morning at NTV. A very cold morning here in Nakuru, just at the border of Ntinda